well-being. What drives their success and what fuels their passions for helping others? We're here to uncover their secrets and share them with you. This show is brought to you by Vibely.io, the all-in-one coaching platform designed to empower coaches with tools, resources, and support they need to thrive and help their clients achieve meaningful, long-lasting growth. I'm Dr. Diego Salinas, your guide on this journey. As a neuroscientist, physician, health coach, and co-founder of Vibely, I'm committed to celebrating the incredible work of coaches everywhere and helping them unlock their full potential. So together, let's dive in deep into what makes coaching a powerful force of change. Sarah Burby is a board-certified behavior analyst, national board-certified health and wellness coach, certified intuitive eating counselor, certified K-6 teacher in the state of New Jersey, and certified bar eclipse instructor. Sarah is the founder of Mind Body Behavior LLC, where she's developed the first and only nationally board for health and wellness coaches approved program tailored specifically for students background applied behavior analysis. Students who complete the Mind Body Behavior Coaching Certificate Program are in 32 BCBA continuing education units and eligible to sit for the National Board Health and Wellness Coaching Exam. Her mission is to help professionals transition into the coaching space confidently and competently. Sarah has co-founded the Behavior and Body Conference, a two-track conference for BCBAs and board-certified health and wellness coaches to learn about the science of lasting behavior change through helping various populations. She also hosts in-person retreats designed to help professionals break through limiting beliefs and tap into their authentic selves. Through her practice, Sarah utilizes the principles of applied behavior analysis and acceptance and commitment therapy to provide one-on-one health coaching to clients who struggle with body images and eating and disordered eating. She also offers small business mentorship to fellow professionals. Additionally, Sarah's created a supervision program where BCBAs candidates can accrue their fieldwork hours outside of autism and developmental disabilities. Sarah's passionate about liberating helping professionals from the belief they must stay in traditional autism and ABA roles and from the fear they can't build careers doing what they truly love. She dismantles limiting beliefs that professionals must always choose between what they should do and what lights them up. Her mission is to build community, create a safe space for growth, and give professional permission for more and relentless pursuits of what sets their soul on fire. So it's presented the ABAI, NGABA, CALABA, WIBA, CTABA, and ABA Reimagine, and been invited to speak on the Self-Set Go conference. Sarah, welcome to the podcast, and so happy to have you on today.
Yes, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, so just read your amazing biography, but I'll just put it a little bit in your words. What got you started in the field of behavior, helping others, and eventually to coaching? What kind of fueled your passions?
Sure. Before I go into that, I don't know if anyone else get embarrassed when someone reads their bio. Like I could type it when I hear someone else say it out loud. I feel so embarrassed for some reason. So I just need to say that. But thank you. So I got into behavior change, honestly, as a total accident. So when I finished my undergrad, I went to undergrad at Flagler College in St. Augustine, Florida, and my whole family lived back in Jersey, and all my friends went to undergrad back in Jersey. So my plan was to go back for the summer, hang out with my family, hang out with my friends, and I was about to go back to grad school in Florida for mental health counseling. That was my plan, except I didn't have a summer job. I couldn't get a job, restaurants, retail, no one was hiring. And I was like, okay, well, this is not going to work for the next 4 months. I need to do something. And my parents sent me a newspaper ad. That's how long ago. It was like an actual newspaper clip at this point. And they were like, hey, there's this summer camp that's hiring for children with autism diagnosis. They're looking for camp counselors. I know you like working with kids. You like helping people. You should just apply and see what it's all about. At that time, I had never heard of autism, honestly, at that point in my life. I don't know that I ever met anyone with autism. Maybe I did. I just didn't know. But I was like, this sounds really cool. This sounds like a really unique experience. So I meant to come home for the summer to be with my friends. I went to this camp up north, an hour away, and I stayed at this summer camp where they utilize the principles of behavior analysis to give these children this amazing experience. And that was it. My life was changed. I was like, I need to do this every single day. Like, I can't go back to Florida. I need to go to do this program. Sorry, well, that's going to bother you, Diego. Sorry. So I was like, I need to do this program. And so it just so happens that there was a master's program that had opened up in New Jersey, like the first master's degree in behavior analysis that had just opened up. I missed the deadline by a week. I still applied. By God's graces, or what was it, I got in and they accepted me into the program. And like, that was my whole life trajectory changed, right? Like I just made this decision. I got hired at the school to get my internship hours there. And then I just fell in love with behavior change. And then in grad school, I remember one of the professors telling us, it's a science of behavior analysis. It's a science. It could be used in all different settings. Yes, we typically use it with children or adults with autism, but it's a science. And I was like, I want to use this in health and wellness. I want to help people feel their healthiest and their best self. But at the time in 2012, there was no one that was doing it. It was like you got your degree, you got your certification, you worked in the autism space, and that was that, right? And as a new clinician, I'm still trying to build up my skill set. I'm trying to feel confident. I'm trying to get my feet wet. Social media was like not what it is today. You couldn't just search someone that was doing behavior analysis and health coaching. I didn't know anybody. So I worked in the traditional setting for a long time and I liked it. I really liked what I was doing, but I don't know. Diego, do you ever feel like you just want to do more? Like you have this like yearning in your soul, like there's something is calling you. You don't know what it is, but like there's something there. Like that's what I felt when I wanted to start to explore health and wellness coaching. And I don't know if you had this experience. I first completed a health coaching program that was not a board approved program because I didn't know there was a board. I didn't know there was a national board. I didn't know there was standard. I didn't know that it was like a regulated thing. So I completed a health coaching program. And then no lie, maybe 2 months later, my friend was like, oh, what NBHWC? I was like, NBHWC, what are you talking about? So I went to another program that was board approved within like 6 months because I wanted to get that credential and go through that program. So it's a long story long, but that's kind of the cliff notes of how I got to where I am.
No, a lot of that resonated with me, Sarah. I mean, we asked her, tells you waters me a little more, right? I mean, in pediatrics, I was like, there's so much we can do with this, right? And kind of what your mentor told you, how some of these skill sets can be applied across multiple things. And I'm actually, so before we go further, I know what behavior analysts are, but let's maybe define that for our listeners, right? And so, because we heard about behavior change, so what is actually a behavior analyst? You can tell us like the scope of practice, maybe what it's become one, and let us know more about what your profession does.
Yes. So to become a behavior analyst, it's a master's degree in the science of behavior analysis. It's 2,000 internship hours in getting like all the competencies checked off and making sure you're really fluent in all these skills. But how I like to explain behavior analysis in the most simple way is we look to help individuals increase socially significant behavior. So we just want to help people's lives be better, right? And whether that client is a client with a diagnosis, maybe we're working with a family, and maybe the goal for the family is just like, we can't go out in public right now because my child tries to run away. My child will run into the street. It's not safe. My child will talk to strangers, right? And so to us, that's a socially significant behavior, right? For that child, of course, for their safety, but also for the family. They can't go on a family outing together, and that's something that they really value, and that's something that's really important to them. So we'll work together and say, okay, how can we determine, what is the function? And that's like very much oversimplifying it. But for the purpose of this is like, let's figure out why. If that child is eloping, obviously there's something going on, right? Are they scared? Do they see something that they want? What is a need that is not being filled for that particular individual? And then how can we come up with an intervention that is meaningful, that is that is in line with the client's values as well, right? And how can we intervene on that and say, okay, here's what we found. The client is doing this for attention. Okay, now how can we make sure that we're proactively giving that client attention so they don't have to run away to get that attention? What can we do proactively? Can we teach them to say, hey, can you play with me? Or I want to do this, instead of having to run away to get attention. So we're really just trying to manipulate. And I don't like to say manipulate because that doesn't mean what I want it to mean, but really like intervene, right? And say, what is the why behind this? And then how can we help come up with alternative behaviors that improve social significance for everybody, right? And getting to that deeper root why. And then of course there's all these different contextual variables, right? When I say what's the function, what's the function in that particular setting? There's so many different contextual variables that are going on. It's not as simple as just what's the function, but looking at in those different variables, what's going into it. So that's kind of behavior analysis in a nutshell. It's just really looking at socially significant behavior.
Yeah, and I think it's taught well-being, right? What's the biggest predictor of your longevity? The quality of your social connections, right? For the family, for the individual. And you mentioned starting this a while back when the world was different. Social media. I remember when I was in medical school and pediatrics about the spectrum, right? And I think when I was first taught it, it was that the problem socialization, and the way I misinterpreted when I first learned it was that they live in their own world. They don't really want to socialize. But I taught preschool for a year, and one of my students was on the spectrum. And what I learned from her, she really desperately did want to socialize. She just didn't know how to do it well. And so there's an input and an output in socialization, right? So she'd go like, she'd go, I want to play. I'm like, what does that mean? What does that mean? Right? You know, so working with her, and to your point, I have a lot of friends who are therapists and, you know, in their own ways, and they will mention, listen, something's happening over and over again. In some way, it's filling a function or need, and it's being reinforced in some way. So pure behavior enforcement. Is there a reward for that, right? And when you think about using reward, I think very linearly like Pavlovian dog. When we talk about social behaviors, there's so many more steps and nuances and cascades, so to speak. So sometimes it's not really obvious, to your point, what is the functions it's serving or the need it's meeting or the reason it's happening. If you can understand, let me maybe throw an analogy here, Sarah. I would say I was working with some coaches who were helping them MI principles, and part of this program also include smoking cessation. So I was saying, listen, if you're talking about smoking cessation, you can talk about all the hints you want about separating the lighter from the cigarettes and all this stuff. I go, well, what is the function of a cigarette? It's a very effective anxiolytic in the short term. It activates your parasympathetic with the nicotine receptors, your rest and digest. I go, so it's serving that function. So it's going to be really hard to talk about smoking cessation if that's the only tool they have for stress management, if you don't give another tool to replace the function it's having, right? Or the socialization component, right? Cigarette break and work or those kind of things, right? So, so what you do is really super complex and nuanced to that person, to their needs. And God bless you for you and your colleagues for doing that incredible work. But Sarah, you did say something earlier that really caught my attention. You saw this. Why are we limiting this to only one diagnosis, one field? So what was that early itch you had that was like, hold on a second, this could be, you know, a transdiagnostic skill set here. Tell me more about that kind of ahas you were having.
Yeah, I think just when I first started to learn about the science, like what is behavior analysis, and like truly understand the theory behind it, to me, my brain, and maybe because I experienced all different health and wellness. You know, I when I was younger, I struggled with body dysmorphia, and then I played soccer throughout college. And when I finished soccer, I was like having this identity crisis of like, I just played soccer for the last 20 something years. Like, who am I now? I'm not playing soccer anymore. So different parts of health and well-being I have just been really interested in that for myself personally. And then I'm reading about the science of socially significant behavior, and I'm like, health and wellness, it's just behavior, right? We're talking about socially significant behavior. So why is nobody taking this evidence-based science that we have and using it outside of this one particular client or diagnosis? Like, yes, I want to keep using it in this one particular diagnosis, but why would we not take the science and help people that are struggling with anything related to health and wellness, right? We know, everybody listening to this podcast probably knows, like you go to a doctor, the doctor's like, oh, well, you should really start exercising. Are people shocked? Are they like, what? I should exercise? That's a brand new, like they know, right? But they don't know how to make the change. They don't know how to change their behavior. If they knew how to change their behavior, my guess is they probably would, right? So why can't we come in and help and come up with interventions, help them figure out their why, right? What is their motivation? What are their values? And to me, I saw so many similarities between behavior analysis and coaching, which I think is why I'm so happy I did the route that I did. I'm so happy I got my master's in behavior analysis. I'm so happy I went back and learned more about the coaching science, because I just think blending those two skill sets together is so valuable.
Yeah. And it's just there's two like big topics that I want to kind of explore a little further. And I think let me start what somebody said earlier, you mentioned about like combining these things, right? And I think when I coach training program, and yes, Sarah, my experience was kind of similar. I actually people who've listened to this know this, I didn't really understand what it was. Like I was trying to find a way to teach parents, and me coming from a medical background, I love teaching education. I thought, like you said, if we just teach more information, I thought if I could figure out how to explain cholesterol to anyone, whether you're a biochemist, we can talk about these molecules, or you're a literate farm worker, it's a tube getting blocked, right? That would be the solution. And again, I said this before, but everyone knows smoking is bad. No one needs to, that's not the limiting factor. And when I took the coach training program, I got lucky. Mine was board approved initially, but Sarah, I didn't know what the board was until they mentioned it in the first day. Right. And so I frankly thought it was a way to help. I was looking to help support parents who are struggling with supporting their kids and their health. And I was thinking if I can teach them about early childhood and some of these things, they could avoid the ER visit, et cetera. So off of someone's recommendation, I went to this Duke coaching program. I was living there. And in the first hour, and I was like, this is cognitive behavioral neuroscience applied. I was like, oh my gosh, what did I sign up for? And my immediate aha was like, okay, wait, I can use this with my pediatric background. And like, oh my God, I can, like my mind was on fire there. And then afterwards it said, there's actually a board for this. I was like the subset of the NBME, like the boards that I've taken before, like that same organization. And I was like, oh my gosh, this can change well-being in my lifetime, because to me, my biggest passion is how coaching can be applied with other skill sets, other resources, other backgrounds. And even though, you're a behavior analyst, I have a pediatric background. Let's say I'm working with someone solely as a coach. I'm not going to diagnose. I'm not doing the same, right? You still have your background resources. And a term I really love is transdiagnostic, right? I borrow a lot from DBT, right? Dialectical behavioral therapy. It was met people who have often emotion dysregulation. But guess what? Everyone experiences dysregulation. If you're listening, have you ever cried before? Have you ever laughed a lot or done something? Hey, Bart has on me. Oops, I was too happy that, we've all been dysregulated. So what I love about coaching, I think most healthcare providers or people with that background see the obvious way this can tie into the healthcare system is that it does not have to be limited by diagnosis. You don't have to have panic attack to work on your stress management. You don't have ADHD to work on your organization, right? And so it both become a preventative model, but also I got to work with Sarah. Why not be better? Like, I don't have autism, but why not learn how to be a little smoother socially? Why not? So you saw this earlier on, Sarah, and then is that how you thought about coaching, or how did that leap? Were you looking for that? Like, how did that leap happen?
I was looking for a way truly to branch out, but in a way that I stayed within my scope, because I very much wanted to make sure that as I was branching out and doing something different, especially as one of the first people or one of the few people that I knew that was doing it, it was very, very important for me that I was doing it ethically and I was doing it where I was within my scope and I was really competent. So that's why one of the really big reasons I went back and made sure I was board approved, because the other program, looking back on it, there was no live classes, there was no feedback. And I'm like, there was no way I could have coached just clicking through on-demand modules, right? Like, you have to live feedback and stuff like that, right? So like, I'm so grateful that I did that. And then funny you say DBT, because I have a really strong interest in ACT and utilizing ACT with my coaching during sessions, right? So like, for me, it was like, once I got that taste of coaching, I'm like, I have to do this. Like, I'm not going back to my other position. Like, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. And I want to show other people how to do this too. So I still consulted. I was doing school consultation at the time, which honestly, all that information I learned about MI and being skills and things like that made me a much better school consult, like almost overnight. So it helped me in that kind of position. And I was just building up my business on the side. And it was like a little baby business side hustle type thing at first. And it got to a point where I'm like, my day job is kind of like a Band-Aid, right? I'm keeping it because I'm comfortable and I know I can have enough money if I do this and do coaching, but I wanted to give myself a year and go all in and see if I can build this business, because this is what I'm just so, every time I got off a coaching call, I just felt like I could run a marathon. Like, my adrenaline was pumping and I was just so excited to see the changes that I was able to collaborate with my clients and how impactful coaching was, and that ripple effect on a client coming to coaching and how their life could be better, and then they could better the lives of somebody else. Like, it was just such a cool experience for me.
Yeah, I can hear you say it. I'm getting excited as well, right? And excuse me, a little bit of water went wrong tube there. Excuse me. I think also, maybe coming from that healthcare background we come from, we do it to help. And then we still see the limitation of what that scope had. And so we found coaching. It's like, oh, this is why I was in this day one of my program. And then I learned the skill set. And so you went, you did your own journey, but you went above and beyond it. Also now create a program that's board approved specifically for behavior analysts. So if you don't mind, maybe because again, I talked to some healthcare workers, doctors, what is coaching, right? And could maybe talk to a behavior analyst, right? So let's say I just graduated behavior analyst, got my master's, got my program in. What's the difference between being behavior analyst and behavior coach?
I love this question so much because sometimes BCBAs will ask me this question of like, well, I'm a behavior analyst. Like, I'm an expert in behavior change. Why would I have to go back to school and go get more training and stuff like that? I'm like, because what you just said, you're an expert in behavior change. But as health coaches, we know that we're not an expert in the client's lives. The client is the expert, right? So as BCBAs, we come in and we're literally paid to come into a situation, whether it be a school, a home, maybe we're an adult community, right? We're paid to come in and give advice to people. We're paid to come in and look at one specific scenario and look at all the different variables and come up with a plan and collaborate with all the stakeholders and say, this is our professional opinion on what should be done. And here's some antecedents that we can manipulate. And here's some consequences. But they're paying us because we're the experts, right? Just like you would pay an SLP or an OT or a PT. They're the expert in those subfields. And so when BCBAs, I've noticed when BCBAs try to transition to the coaching space, but don't actually have a background in coaching, it's very much behavior analyst led, which we know is not coaching, right? They're saying, oh, Diego would come to me and say, oh, I really want to work on my fitness. And I would say, oh, okay, so tell me your baseline. What are you currently doing? Well, I'm not really working out. I kind of run a few days a week. And I might say, oh, okay, cool. So you currently run 2 days. How about our goal is to get up to 3 days, right? So you're going up to 3 days. We'll get some self-monitoring data. We'll graph it. And then we'll see you next week. I'm like, that's literally not coaching. That is the opposite of what coaching is, right? But I wouldn't know that unless I had 6-month training in MI, right? So right. I think there's similarities for sure, but there's also a lot of differences. I didn't learn anything about MI in my grad program. I wish I did, but I didn't. Yeah. I didn't know about stages of change. I didn't know about all this stuff that I learned throughout my coaching program. And I'm so passionate about expanding the field. I'm so passionate about encouraging behavior analysts. Let's get into coaching. Let's change the field together, but I want them to do it right. I want them to do it in a way that they are truly representing what coaching is. And that's kind of the why behind creating this program. So they are doing it. And I don't want to say right because that's not the right word, no pun intended, but doing so like competently. Do you know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah. Oh, you're speaking my language, Sarah. So a few things there, again, a few kind of ideas. The first kind of mirrored what I thought too, or I think a lot of people see that, well, I'm already a nurse. Why should I be a health coach? I know health. I'm a doctor. I'm a health coach. And with my experience, again, kind of the reason I went into it, because I was like, I was trying to figure out how to teach parents stuff. But I came running into the problem of like, oh, you're my doctor. I'm like, I don't want to be your doctor. I want to do it with my friends. I want to spend an hour on the phone with you, answer your questions, help you understand that I don't want you. I didn't get excited doing more lab work, or the diagnosis part at one point wasn't a mystery. That's not what satisfied me. It was explaining the stuff after the diagnosis, walking with you. But I didn't know what coaching was. And so because I was encountering this problem of like, how to explain what I'm doing, I'm your medically educated friend. And so it's like, oh, maybe do this health coaching thing so you can put that hat on. I'm like, perfect. There's already whatever that is, I'll do it. And I didn't go into it arrogantly thinking I was going to learn anything. I was like, cool, I love teaching and learning. I'll learn a better way to teach. Yeah. That was my thought that I was going to learn. And so to any healthcare worker listening, I'm telling you, and Sarah's telling you, you do not learn this. And to you said MI a few times. To our non-coach listeners, MI is motivational interviewing. It's one of the foundations of coaching. Look at it, Bill Miller, his work, his book on it. I think it's on 5th edition now. I saw him speak last year. Amazing speaker too. But the point is, I think after I took my coach training program, I had this flashback. I was like, oh, I think I had one MI lecture in my second year medical school for like 45 minutes. If I was sick that day, and to your point, you can't learn this without experiencing it, not then after 4 years you'll use it. So it is a radically different skill set. It's not, and again, we think we're trained, tell them what to do.
Yeah.
And I told someone, I heard this recently, it's like, look how hard it is to change your own behavior. Good luck trying to change someone else's, right? Yeah. And so coaching instead that motivational interviewing, I think is two really big components of what coaching does is it cultivates internal motivation. Yeah. It is not about being an influencer or being like, here's my story. My story is rollerblade. No, yours is kale. Like yours is yoga. Everyone has their own story. right? But it's not about sharing my story and Diego's path or Sarah's road to redemption. Like, it is that, okay, we understand we all have our own stories, our own things, but what is the science between cultivating your own internal motivation and you being more self-efficacious, right? And I think when you learn that, you realize the massive impact and the importance, as you said, to do it competently. Yeah. That's why I love saying there's a board around, right? There's continuing education credits, because I mean, the word coach is frankly a hard word for most people because it already means something for 20 years of our life. You're a soccer player. What's your coach do? Sarah, run more laps, do this, right?
Yes.
So neurolinguistically, it's tough to reprogram that word. And it doesn't really do credence to what we're doing. And people use it in business. I'm going to coach them through this, meaning I'm going to tell them to come in earlier and do Pomodoro and do this, which is not, again, what coaching is about. So I think that's why people at the board, organizations who do try to define it is helpful. And people go into programs, people say, I love people, I'm a coach. I said this many times. I love my dog, I'm not a vet. Loving people doesn't make you a coach. Loving your kids doesn't make you a parent.
Yes.
I'm sorry, it doesn't make you a pediatrician, excuse me. Right? So Sarah, so now you've embodied, so now you've gone this journey, realizing this, and I guess you're like me, once you realize the impact of something, you want to teach people to do as well, leverage your effect, right? Can I ask, what have you learned in starting, your coach training program? What has been some learning you've had as a program director or teacher that you didn't expect? I always learn when I teach more. I learn so much when I teach, right? What have you learned on this journey of teaching behavior analysts to become health behavior coaches?
That is a great question. What haven't I learned, Diego? No. I learned becoming a board-approved program is way harder than I thought, which is probably a good thing. I thought this was going to be a 3-month curriculum that I developed. It was over a year that it took to develop the curriculum and the content and everything like that. So that was lesson number 1, which again, I think is a good thing. And what's been really interesting is our first cohort was in spring of this year, spring of 2025. And now we have 2 cohorts right now. And the content is exactly the same. What we're teaching is exactly the same, but it's so interesting to see the different questions that are asked. And the way that different analysts interpret different information. Even we have a Thursday and a Saturday cohort, same content, but sometimes the classes go differently, right? And they're asking different questions. And I love that they're doing that. And I love that confident enough now not to be like, no, this is the agenda for today. We have to get through X, Y, and Z point, right? Like being flexible, modeling, being like, I'm so glad you asked that. Let's talk about it. Let me be the coach. You be the client. This is how I would do it, right? And to be able to jump in and say, yes, of course, there's certain competencies that we have to cover as part of this program. But listen, if I planned it for this day and we're not covering it that day, okay, I'll make a mental note. We'll fit it in another time. And I think that's so important. And I think maybe like 10 years ago, Sarah would not have been flexible. I would have been like, nope, this is the plan. We have to get through it. But I think that's just been a really cool experience to see how everyone is taking the information, interpreting the information, and then getting just really curious about it and coming up with different hypothetical situations and things like that.
Yeah, no, that definitely tracks with my experience. Like, each cohort is different because they're different people. We're all unique, just mathematically. It's never the same person twice. And I think this kind of teaching where you're teaching the art of the science, right? There is a science to coaching. That's why it works. It's reproducible, right? It's not that I'm a very charismatic person, a Europe-friendly person. There's like a reproducible structure to this. And just like reproducing a painting, you can learn to go to painting school, right? You can learn to take a pottery class. You can learn to do any of these things. There's going to be your spin on it, right? Your authenticity of it. And I think it's such an interesting model when you're teaching, if you're teaching, let's say, basic physiology, there's not nuance. It's like this molecules of oxygen do this to this thing, to the mitochondria. It's a fact that it or isn't. But what do you do when a client says, Coach, what should the answer be? Like, or a client is in a hard space, or you can't, like, that is where it becomes really, as an educator, you're teaching a mindset. And that's a much harder thing to teach because as coaches, our mindset is being completely different. Coaching is not an intuitive skill set. It's not innate skill set. Intuitive, maybe better said. Like, it's like we all have inside of us, but it's not, there's a reason why we don't talk that way normally. We have to go to school to learn to think this way. And a lot of my students are like, Diego, I want to be in the flow. I'm like, listen, it's going to take a while. Flow requires skill set. You've been thinking this way for 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years. Give yourself more than 3 weeks to think differently. And now I've been doing it like 8 years, something like that. Like, I do notice I think so differently, reflect more, ask open-ended questions more. So, but it is a different way of viewing the world, and to your point, a very beautiful way to view and support us in the world.
I think that's a really good point too, because what you just said, actually, I totally forgot about this, but this happened in the beginning of the spring cohort. This happened in the beginning of the fall cohort and I think this is like, behavioral analysts that are joining our program obviously are very invested. They're signing up for this program. They're getting additional education, but they want to do it right. And they're like, Sarah, is this right? Sarah, is this right? And we're in like week 3 and they're like, was this the right question? Was that the right question? I'm like, I know it's so hard. I know you want me to tell you like, yes, that was right, or yes, that was wrong. But like, we're going to give you the structure, and you're going to develop your own authentic coaching style, right? And that like my coaching style, I can model that for you. It might not be authentic for you. And for you to try to coach like I coach would feel really like weird and icky, right? But people are going to want the coach that suits them, and it's okay. And so just giving them like building their self-efficacy, right? And building their confidence in developing their own coaching style. And I think myself, when I was in the program, I was like, I want to be right. I want to do it the way it's supposed to be done. And like letting myself be like, oh, okay, like what is the framework? Am I following the framework? I'm going to try different strategies with different clients. Maybe I really like this question, or I really like this ACT metaphor, or this diffusion strategy. Yeah. Maybe I don't, but I'm not going to know until I try it, right? And that's okay to try things, and maybe you'll find that's how you develop what sticks in your coaching style.
Yeah, I think as a professional, especially if you cover the background, it's really interesting. When I've been coaching, like someone will come up and I'm like, oh, I'm going to pull something from a neuroscience lecture I had in undergrad. This comes from like this ACT thing or CBT principle or this one model of anxiety or this one whatever. And you're like, because here's the reality, there's no one model to describe humanity, the human experience. So the more models as human beings, the more we can take these really abstract concepts and make a metaphor someone can understand, or framework someone can apply their own things to. That's how we get people improving, right? So there's no, it's this wonderful combination of things. And I think the students or people who are training, their confidence is so important to build that up in a way that says, here's a skill. So make sure you're following the science and the ethical standards we have. And you being authentic is part of that, because people say like, well, Diego, I'm not a doctor. You don't need to be a doctor to coach, first of all. Probably better if you're not. You're going to have more open mind, right? But also, people say, well, I'm not like you. I'm not like loud and outgoing. Like, first of all, in my coaching sessions, I would do so much work to not talk. I am radically different during a session than I am in this, right? That said, I'm still myself. It's within myself. And people, as your point, people resonate with you for reasons out of your control. Like, you just be you. Like I was talking to a group the other day about this. And we choose our target audience. Okay, I like helping healthcare workers or families, but sometimes people choose you. Like I started getting a lot of referrals from adolescent males from the families because there's not a lot of male coaches out there. And I've been mostly in female-dominated fields, pediatrics, coaching, right? But this time, people are finding me for something I didn't choose. I didn't choose to be a Latino male, right? Yeah. So like, you be yourself, and people want that quiet person. People want the big nerds. People want this. Like, it is about you being yourself, because that's that trust that's being built that lets you let someone trust you on sharing the science of how to improve their life.
Yeah, totally. I believe that 100%. And you become magnetic, right? Like your clients come to you, like you said, because of the way that you're showing up authentically. And I think that was something that it took me a while to show up authentically, because I thought I had to show up as I always say professional. I like to think I'm professional, but professional in the sense that like, I'm in like a business suit and I'm in like a nice straight back, and this is how I talk. And that's not who I am, right? Like, it just didn't feel authentic to me. And as soon as I started showing up authentically and just being who I was, like the universe, right? That's not very scientific, but it was bringing people to me, right? It was saying, no, I want coaching. I want to work with you in some capacity. I want to join this program. And it's like, I think that's just something that you step into over time.
I'm curious. I've said this before, but never to a behavior analyst. I'm kind of throwing something out here with you, Sarah. When I worked in preschool, I did Montessori teaching for like 3 to 5 year olds. That's when you really, did I learn about behavior change then? In the hospital, I knew how to fix your potassium and your CO2 levels, but potty training, I was like, I don't know, ask grandma, ask I have no idea, right? How to share the toys, how to not fight, right? That's when I really learned a big part of behavior change working in that preschool. And one thing that really struck me from that experience was that how kids are so fine-tuned to pick up on authenticity and emotions. And it makes sense because it is their survival. Kids can be annoying, they can be frustrated, they know who to trust, where the limit is. So I think we do all have that innately. As we get older, socialization, structure, life experiences kind of muddies that, but we don't lose that kind of quote unquote gut feeling. So I think that's what it is. People just can tell if you're authentic or not. And now you can be authentic, and I know people are very authentic, I just don't like them, right? It's necessary or sufficient. So you just gotta be authentic and then see who's gonna resonate or not with you. But if you're not authentic, that people can't put their nose on it, but there's something just a little distant. And we always think, oh, but I gotta be a certain way. It's like mom said, be yourself. People will gravitate with you, and the right people will, right?
100%. I love that.
So I can go on for a while, but I want to talk about now your next step, right? So you were behavior analyst, saw that the house could be really opened up more, took some programs, took more programs, started your own. Now you've launched that. You're now in your third cohort, each cohort being different, unique. And now you're saying, what else? So you're definitely one of those go-getters just throwing rocks. So tell me what inspired this conference. Let's talk about this conference you're starting off. What inspired it? Let's talk about the conference you're planning up.
And I think it's just so on theme, right, with kind of like our mission. So the conference, the Behavior and Body Conference, is 2 tracks. And one track is for behavior analysts, BCBAs, continuing education. One track is for NBHWC certification, but I purposely have speakers that are dually certified, and I have them speaking on opposite tracks because I really want to, number one, bring in board certified behavioral analysts, because that continuing education is typically in the autism space, right? If you want continuing education, the 32 CEs that we need, it's typically in the autism space. So I want them to have continuing education to get a taste of what it's like in health and wellness. All of our speakers are experts in health, some sort of health and wellness, right? And someone's a BCBA nutritionist, like just different sides of that. So I want them to get a taste of what continuing education is in the health and wellness space. I also want them to see the speakers in the NBHWC. Like, it's an optional to do one track or both, but we have a lot of people. Over half the people that signed up are doing both tracks because they're like, oh, wait, NBHWC? What's that? I didn't know what that was. Oh, that's kind of cool. Oh, wait, that speaker's cool. That topic's cool, right? And on the flip side of that, I hope the NBHWCs come to that and say, wow, these are behavior analysts. What is that? Oh, it's the science of behavior change. It's socially significant behavior. Oh, they're talking about nutrition. That's kind of cool too. I want to learn about this. Or I've only been trained in X, Y, or Z. Let me hear what this track has to say. So the purpose is really to kind of like, I guess, bring awareness to both fields, because not many people know what a health coach is. Not many people know what a BCBA is. And most BCBAs don't know what health coaching is, and vice versa, right? So
right.
The conference to bring both fields together, immerse both fields together. And best case scenario, I get a couple BCBAs that come in and are like, that talk was awesome. I need to get this NBHWC thing. And honestly, I don't care if it's with my program or any other program. I just want them to go through an NBHWC program and continue to expand the science, continue to make it easier for future behavior analysts that are coming in. And I hope that some of the NBHWCs will be encouraged to maybe follow some behavior analysts, connect with them, see what they're doing, collaborate. You and I have talked about this before. I'm just so big in collaboration and community. Like, that's the stuff that like really lights me up as well. So this conference in collaboration and community is just kind of like it just seemed like the natural next step of like our whole mission of Mind Body Behavior.
I love that so much. Like, I think it's the point, both communities need more awareness, and what a chance to learn from colleagues, right? So one thing that I loved in medicine was the continuing education. You're always, we call it curbside consult, right? You're like, hey, what do you do with someone who does this, right? You go to a conference, there's always some topic that you never heard about, and you kind of sit in and to, I said earlier in the talk that like, or in our discussions there, that like sometimes like, oh, thank God I went to that one thing, I learned that one thing, and it comes up here, right? And so it's definitely, what a beautiful conference is centered around behavior and both the analysis of it and then the helping someone be self-efficacious of it. Each can learn things within their own community, but that cross-learning is what we need to do more of. And like, if you're a coach, the more you can learn outside of coaching, the more resources you're going to have, whether resources that you use, because you might learn something from a colleague. They're like, oh, you know what? I learned this one principle of theory. Could it be helpful? Or now you know who to refer to. Yeah. So if you're a coach that helps with, so I do a lot of parenting coaching, right? If you do parenting coaching, work with adolescents, having a referral source for someone who's a behavior analyst. 2 summers ago, I had a client from different state. Her daughter was younger, maybe having autism diagnosis. It was like through this process. I never the daughter, just helped the mom work through this process, right? And she looked at a community of health, the clinic she had people there, but I was like, if not, let me help you find someone, right? So I think no matter what kind of provider you are, we don't always have all the answers. The only provider I don't trust is one who doesn't have all the answers, because that means they're either too arrogant or too ignorant, right? So like it's impossible. And if we have, the more we can have knowledge or referrals, the more we can have tools to support people either directly or indirectly, right? And you never know what's going to be that missing piece that comes in during a session. You're like, you know what? I'm really glad I learned that.
Yeah. And I think just having continuing education, I don't know if it's like this in the medical space, but like, to be blunt, sometimes the continuing education in the BCBA world is just so dry. Like it's so boring. And you're sitting through this and you're like, oh, you're dozing off. I'm doing 10 different things. I'm trying to bring my attention back to what the speaker is saying. And I'm like, this conference is not going to be boring. I can guarantee you that. Like these speakers are going to be engaging and you're going to learn new things. And it was like, I'm sick of going through continuing education that I want to learn more about. And I'm like kind of disappointed. Like it was kind of dry. It was kind of boring, right? I don't want this conference to be like that. And also introducing us to different topics that, like, to me, seeing a conference is like, I just want to get a taste of this. I want to get a taste of all these different things that I could potentially learn more about. And now I have this space to learn a little bit about each of these different topics. And then now I want to do a deep dive into this, right? Like Ariel is doing picky eating with children. She's going to do that. And then it's like, ooh, I love that conversation. How do I connect with Ariel? How do I do what she did? How do I find more resources or this, right? It just gives us a little taste, little appetizers of things that we want to learn more about.
Sarah, is Ariel, sorry to pause you, she's the one who started the pediatric coach training program? Ariel,
yes.
Yeah.
I'm liking her last name, but yes.
Right. I ran out for her last name. I've met her before. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Let's try to collaborate, kind of learn from each other. And actually, do you have, I know the whole list is online, but like for people listening, maybe in the car or something, like other kind of topics covered or other kind of things you're excited about presenting or listening to during the conference coming up?
Yeah. So we have, we're talking about pediatrics, picky eaters, coaching clients who are experiencing crisis and how to help them stay regulated first before they can get into the coaching or as we're coaching through them. Casey Joe was talking about all things mindset in coaching. We have, Kendra is a BCBA, NBHWC, and certified nutritionist. So she's talking about functional nutrition. We have somebody talking about how to reduce processed foods through a behavior analytic approach. I'm sure there's more. Melissa Wolowski is talking about coaching with grief, coaching clients that are experiencing grief. So there's 14 different topics, 14 speakers, and I'm blanking on all 14 of them, but not one of them are similar. They're all wildly different for a purpose.
I love that. Yeah. That's what and because people have so many parts of us, right? Like I love seeing the breadth of, we said earlier in the conversation, coaching is a skill set, but there's so much ways you can combine this with other things, right? And that's what's combining your own passions and the people you serve, right? Like maybe if you felt stuck on something, like feel like a lot of my clients, or let's say not clients, students who I'm mentoring, right? They'll say, Diego, what if someone cries in front of me? I'm like, not what if, when someone cries in front of me. It's going to happen if you do this long enough, right? So if you're not comfortable with that, maybe go into grief and loss talk, right? Help you understand that you don't have to solve the answer and say it's okay, right? Like what helps you feel more confident either to be present there and or your curiosity, right? And I think also, Sarah, conference you mentioned, it's a great way to meet people. You hear someone speak, you hear someone in the audience, like who else wants to do this, right? Like community, learning from each other, and that support we can give each other.
Yeah. And I will say from the coaches that I know and the behavior analysts, like I love when I go to a conference and someone reaches out to me and says, I was at your presentation. I would love to chat more. Can you share a little bit? I love that. I love nothing more than that, actually. I would love to help people that see me speak, whether in person or virtually, and then connect, and I can share anything that I have to offer them. And like, I've reached out to so many people and that I haven't met. I saw that at a conference, and every single time have gotten lovely, kind responses. Oh, here's this resource I talked about. Here's this website. If you ever want to chat, here's this link. I think it's just a really nice space to just start chatting with other people. And I also believe when you are surrounded by people that are like doing this work. They're making it happen. All the 14 people that are speaking are doing this work every single day. That's another reason I wanted these people to present. They're doing the coaching. And I think when you're surrounded by people that are doing the coaching, like you can't help but be inspired, right? It's like, wow, all these people are doing it. Like, how can I get into this? How can I really start to step into this? And when your surroundings are, when you're surrounded by people that are doing that, like you're gonna do it too, right? You don't have an option. So you're surrounded by people that are like, oh, it's too hard to get a job, or you can't do this, you can't do that. Like that's like low draining energy. That's not the vibe, right? The vibe is high energy. People are doing this work every day, and how can we all collaborate and learn and grow our space together?
Yeah, I agree. I agree on all those points. I also, maybe one of our birds of feathers, Sarah. I love group presentations, and I also have my QR code at the end of it. Like, hey, call me if you want. Let's book a call. Let's talk. Let's nerd out about something. And it is so important, especially for anyone who's a solo provider. You've been one for a long time. It can be very lonely being a solo provider, and you don't have to do it alone. And there's community is mess, and we talked earlier in the conversation, right? That's where well-being lives. That's where motivation lives. Why do people go to libraries? Because you buy them. Everyone here studying, might as well study too, right? You get ideas from each other. You get that motivation and inspiration. And the reality for me, I realized this year what a fuel that is through the hard times, right? To compare progress, find an accountability buddy, just that kind of border between professional and personal support that you get from kind of colleagues. And to be honest, it's a wonderful community to be in, Sarah, because coaches, we have this double-edged sword. I'm going to paint a broad brushstroke here, so not everyone, but I think most coaches help others more than ourselves. Or I've been working on that for a decade now, but I'm still kind of skewing. It's less skewed, but it's there. Which the flip of that is, if you have a community of people who are that way, we can get each other's backs. I'll help you, help me out, right? And I think for the whole profession, I think one of the biggest things we got to work on to grow is more collaboration, because the limiting factor is not competition. People don't know what we do yet. But if Sarah, one of her colleagues refer to behavior coach, or I can refer to behavior analyst, and we understand this is part of the team of professionals who help in these unique ways, that's where we'll serve more people, more awareness, right? We're a ways away from competing. There are way more people who need coaching who just don't know it's a thing yet, right? That's not the limiting factor.
And we can all win. Like, that's my motto. Like, we can all win. We can all be successful. There's no limit on success, right? Like, literally, all of us, every single person that's coaching, we can all be successful. It's not like my success takes away from yours and vice versa, right? Like, we can all be successful.
Exactly. So let's all rise together. So we're gonna kind of coming up to time soon here, and I want to say, Sarah, it's been really great getting to know you, and having value to support your coach training program, and help coaches and behavior analysts at the conference. I know what we do, but where can people find out about the conference? If you're a coach, behavior analyst, or someone curious, where can they find out more of the conference, sign up, or get more information, Sarah?
Yeah, I can. I don't know if you can share the link, Diego, but it's on Behavior Live. So Behavior Live is a platform that we use, and it's called the Behavior Embody Conference. So if you go down Behavior Live, Behavior Embody Conference, I don't know if anybody on here is ever on Instagram, but my Instagram is just Sarah Burby. I post about the conference all the time as well. So if anyone is on Instagram, the link is also on there. But if they want to just search the conference, it's just on Behavior Live, and then search Behavior Embody Conference, and it should come up.
Great. We'll put the link down in the description, and please feel free to message Sarah. She's like me. She wants to hear from you. And also, Sarah, those who maybe are kind of curious on the conference, but learning about your coach training program, right? Where can they find out more about your coach training program?
Yes. So if they want to go to mindbodybehavior.co, not com, it's .co. Com was already taken. mindbodybehavior.co. And then if they search board approved program, all our details for our program will be on there. Our next cohort starts in March. We have really, really great crew. Every time that we've had a cohort, it's just an incredible crew, very welcoming. So we'd love to have anyone that's potentially looking for a program. We would love to have you. And of course, I'm happy to do a Zoom, Google Meet chat with any questions about the program. We do that all the time.
Awesome. Well, Sarah, thank you so much today for taking time to kind of share your insights, share your story, spread awareness to the community, and really excited for next year to continue collaborating and be at the conference. And thank you to our listeners. Again, we do also support our listeners. We have a little discount code, podcast20. If you type that in, we'll give you 20% off for Violate the next 3 months after your free trial. We want to support people who support others here. So thank you, everyone. And Sarah, we'll see you very soon at the conference. And anyone else, message us, let us know. We're here to help you out and answer your questions.